each realtor is taking it differently too. There are some realtors who are like, hey, let me run and gun. I'll wear gloves 6 feet apart, rock it like that. And then there are other realtors who are like, hey, this is basically a shelter in place. We're going to stay home and we're going to stock up. And we have a ton of toilet paper. Whose idea? That was your idea. That was definitely your idea.
Doomsday margaritas. What do we call them?
Quarantinis.
No. Coronaritas.
Oh, yeah, Coronaritas. Something like that.
Yeah, it was a good time.
But it's just crazy what's going on in the world right now.
It is absolutely
unprecedented.
insane.
I remember when SARS came out and I was a young buck, right? And there was no real change that I remember except my parents wouldn't let me go on the field trip for the school like that year. I think we were supposed to go to Canada for like the Biodome or something. You got to remember, I grew up north. I'm a northern boy.
He grew up basically in Canada.
I grew up in the mountains. I was just like a wild child. So we were supposed to go on a field trip, and my parents were like, ex-nay. I was the only one who wasn't allowed to go on the field trip because SARS was like all over the headlines. It
was ramping up.
But schools weren't even closed.
No.
Like our school.
No, we've never seen anything like this.
It's just crazy. I don't want to dive too much into it because I don't know all the facts. I'm literally just riding by the seat of my pants. We actually just found out that we may not be able to work for a month.
We did. As many people have obviously found out over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think they're definitely going to let us finish out the transactions that we have.
They are. The inspections and closings.
The thing that's going to be the real make or break point is if they allow buyer showings. Because if they don't allow buyer showings, listers and sellers are going to start pulling or waiting until May or June to list their houses. If they do allow buyer showings, buyers will
continue on.
To be honest, no transaction can happen without us walking that buyer through. So it's literally, that's going to be the make or break point for the month of April, is if they still allow buyer showings. And if
sellers still allow it, even if they do allow it, I know none of mine personally, but I know a lot of realtors and colleagues that we work with and have spoken to, a lot of sellers are now hesitant and are starting to pull houses already.
Absolutely.
And they're like, nope, we want it off the market.
It's funny. I've seen both sides of it. So I actually had the other side of it where I had a buyer rush because he didn't want anything to change. And I had a seller rush because they didn't want anything to change because they're worried about a recession. So then they were like, oh my God, we got to list tomorrow. Yep. So it's just like, it goes both ways. It's a very weird time.
And nobody knows what's going on. So everybody has different opinions. Different sellers have different opinions. Different buyers have different opinions. And that's why you see people like you've encountered who are like, hey, let's pull the trigger. Let's move on this right now. And you have other people who are like, whoa, let's pump the brakes. We want to wait until May time before we reevaluate the situation, and we'll go from there. But we're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I've personally seen it both ways as well. And it's very interesting to see and try to even just comprehend what even is going on in the world right now.
Yeah. Part of the reason why they're doing this is so that ideally 6 months from now, maybe life can be normal. So
hopefully less.
Yeah, hopefully less.
Got to stay optimistic.
Absolutely.
I think we
got to look at this glass half full, and you guys are able to watch a lot of Netflix and a lot of YouTube right now, and I think that YouTube you are watching should be the Matt 101 channel and the Real Success podcast with Chris the Shotgun Pasco, because I think that's really important to everyone's safety right now.
I like your style, Matt.
Sorry, shameless plug.